What's going on, guys? JFC here. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. I wanted to sort of combine the Pentez's old Road to Glory videos where we kind of talked with the comment section about certain things with FIFA or any questions about anything really. And also sort of combine Fantano. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Fantano. His Let's Argue series where he kind of lets people in the comments give their hot takes or their opinions on things, and he responds to them as well in a separate video. So I kind of wanted to combine those two things and just talk about anything you guys have to say in the comments. I just love talking to you guys, interacting with you guys. So let's begin. I asked in my last two previous videos to put anything in the comment section you guys wanted to have answered. Shane says, love the content. Who is your fave player to use this FIFA and or your most surprising player throughout this FIFA so far? For me, Winter Wildcard Sancho has been so good for me, and the most surprising one for me was the Reece Oxford SBC. Starter in my team and is an absolute tank. So my favorite player to use this year is probably, not surprisingly, the mid Pele that I packed. He's just so good, and probably biased because I have him first owner. But yeah, I think he's probably the best player. Him and Mbappe, of course, probably the two best players I've used this year. And I just don't want to say Mbappe because he's just so obvious. And it's like, he's also the easiest card to use in FIFA history. So I didn't really want to say him. Favorite midfielder, I'd probably say is Yaya Toure. Favorite defender, I'd probably say is any version of Virgil van Dijk, probably. I put in my last video, so my hot take was gold Virgil van Dijk over any version of Paolo Maldini, including like his prime. So I genuinely believe that. I think gold Van Dijk is insane. But the most surprising player so far, I think my first one that comes to mind is actually the mid 90 Eto that was an SBC, because I didn't know how good Eto would be. But for the first, he came out very early as an icon SBC. I think for the first month or so he was out, he was so above what I expected him to be. I expected him to be a very good card, right? Obviously an icon Eto is going to be good, but to the level of how good he was still surprising to me. And I still think 90 Eto is super usable now. I think Eto's cards this year are pretty incredible. I think this is probably his best year he's ever been in FIFA. I think if I had to pick an icon that was actually surprising, the fact that I think he's super meta and you could have extremely high finishes with this card, I think it's probably any version of Del Piero. I think Del Piero this year is actually great, and I think that he's the kind of card that I wouldn't be shocked to see a 19-1, 20-0 team have him in it. I think I would in the past, but I have every version I've used of him, all the way from baby to prime. I mean, that's all his versions, so thanks, Captain Obvious. I think they've all been great. So I think I'd say Del Piero for an icon that is a bit surprising. And third one is Griezmann Path to Glory. Reason he's surprising is that I think if I replaced him and Prime R9 in my team, I don't know if there would be that much of a difference. Obviously not warranted of the cost, right? Prime R9 is 8 million coins, and Griezmann is 700,000. For that cost, obviously Griezmann is going to be better. But yeah, I think that Griezmann is in, that card is genuinely one of the best players in FIFA, and he's a bargain at that price. I do believe that. Hugo Leonardo asks, I have been watching your channel for almost a year now, and it's amazing to see it grow. Do you have objectives for your channel this year? So yeah, I've had a channel now for, I think it's 8 months, 7 months. So if you haven't watched the whole time, Hugo, you're a real OG. But my first objective for the channel this whole FIFA was honestly to get 1,000 subs, because at 1,000 subs, you can get in the YouTube partner program. So that was my main goal, right? And whether I got there or not, I was just gonna, keep going at it because I love playing FIFA. I love making videos. And so to keep kind of going at it, because obviously it takes a lot of time to do this stuff, I told myself, I was like, okay, by the end of FIFA 23 or by, March, April, team of the season time, I want to get to 1,000 subs. And we smashed that literally in the first, I think, month or two of FIFA 23. And now we're over 3,500. I think for the end of FIFA 23, I want to say maybe 5K subs is probably my goal. And if I don't get it, oh well, but I want to set my sights high, right? And I obviously would love to make this job a career because I love playing FIFA. I love talking to you guys. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy that aspect of this. I was talking about FIFA or real life football in general with a bunch of you guys. It's super fun on stream or in the YouTube comments or whatever, right? It's honestly super fun doing this. It takes up a lot of time, but really I wouldn't change a thing. Honestly, I wouldn't. Scott Cunningham asks, how do you break down a 4-2-3-1? What formation gives you the most fits? So honestly, this year more than others, I don't think one formation in total gives me more fits than another. That's probably because this is the year I think that I'm probably the best I've been at FIFA. So it's more if the player is just really good, then I struggle. That's kind of what it is. Doesn't really matter the formation that much. If I had to pick one though, I'd probably also say 4-2-3-1 with say he's got two CDMs and it's Vieira and Yaya or something like that. two brick CDM center backs of Lucio Van Dijk. Like, that's difficult to break down. So what I would do is, recently I've been using a 3-4-2-1 just because it's super attacking. I'd rather play more attacking, concede some extra goals than like win 1-0 at every game. I'm not saying everybody in the 4-2-3-1, you know, plays like that, but what I am saying is just, it can be a very defensive formation. What I would do is switch to a 3-back, honestly. Get comfortable with using a 3-back formation, because you can just substitute that extra defender for an attacker. And that's just adding one more person in the middle of the pitch is going to make, you know, breaking down any formation much easier. If you're in a 4-2-3-1, he's very defensive and you think you got the ball a lot or whatever, and you just can't quite break it down, switch to a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-5-2, something like that. That's really your best bet, in my opinion, at least in this FIFA. You know, 4-2-3-1 is so balanced, it's difficult to find a for sure counter to it, that I think you probably just have to overload the box. That's probably what you got to do. DJ says, when you get big, don't forget about the OGs, crying laughing emoji. First of all, won't forget about you. Second of all, I honestly think I'm already bigger than I expected, so gonna move swiftly on from that. David Cedeno asks, what are your thoughts on next year's game? I'm scared we're gonna be hating life. Thoughts? First of all, David, if next year's game sucks, don't hate your life. That's the most important thing. But I know what you mean. I think you just mean like, it's gonna be disappointing, it's gonna suck if next year's game is not good and you're scared that it's going to be. I do believe that next year's game, there's a couple things like, you know, in my head going on with this, is that EAFC 24, worst case scenario with it is, I think there is a chance that it's going to be a game that's a little more bare bones than FIFA. I do believe that. Because it's a new game, they don't have I think the FIFA license, it changes a lot more than you would expect, and not literally changing, like, say, the gameplay or like the core concepts of Ultimate Team, but just every little thing in the game that had to do with like FIFA itself has to be like redone, revamped, you know, looked over. That's gonna take a lot of time, and I do think there's a chance next year's game is a little more bare bones than we're kind of used to seeing a FIFA game be. But at the same time, I think the upside is pretty high, honestly. I think that without the FIFA license, there could be things that they just haven't been able to do that they've wanted to do for a really long time. There's a definite possibility that the game next year is better than it's ever been. That is a chance. Like, I would say, is it which one's more likely, it being, you know, more bare bones than ever or being the best game ever? Obviously, I think I put my bet on the most bare bones FIFA ever, but there is a chance that it's very good. And I think EAFC 25 is probably going to be where we really notice the FIFA license being gone more than we ever had before. I think that's going to be the first game coming out where EA fully can really do what they want. Comparing EAFC 25 to FIFA 23 is going to be wildly different. I think next year's going to be kind of a bridge year. To finish off your question in terms of, like, you know, what are your final thoughts on the game next year? I think that it's going to be extremely popular. You know, FIFA's the only football game there is really. PES has just been super lackluster. UFL, you know, God knows what'll happen with that. There's a couple other soccer games, so I apologize, I'm so sorry, football games on the way, and I think just the odds are, when you have a deal with the Premiership and a deal with La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, you just really, it's difficult to compete with the licensing stuff. And yet, in the fact that FIFA is it's a better game than most sports games are, honestly, it is. They actually do put quite a bit of work into this game, more so than like a Madden, for sure, more than a Madden. They're made by the same company. So I'll be optimistic and say, I think next year's game will be fine, at the least. This isn't really a hot take or a question, but just to let you guys know, if you're wondering if the Thuram SBC is good, iRocketGoat says the Thuram SBC is an absolute worldie, mid-Vieira with better dribbling and shooting. I actually swap him to up front. That's a hell of a statement. Mid-Vieira, better dribbling and shooting. I mean, he is like 6'4", right? Yeah, I didn't do him, so curious to hear what you guys have to say. If you guys have done him, is iRocketGoat speaking facts, or is he hyping up Thuram way too much? It's a giant L. Promo 130 asks, you know something about scripted gameplay in FIFA? Seems EA has a patent for that. I do know something about that. I talked about that more in my conspiracy video I made about like a couple months ago. And yeah, there is a patent for dynamic difficulty adjustment, which is kind of like a not scripting thing. I think you're probably assuming scripting is more like a predetermined outcome of a game that you're going into. I don't think that exists. I think that's just, the factors in there would be so complicated and complex that I don't think EA just could do that. I just don't think that they're capable of doing that. But dynamic difficulty adjustment is more of like a reasonable thing, right? That's kind of like slider manipulation happening in the middle of a game. Because of, say, one team winning, one team losing, one team's team being better than another, you know, there's lots of different factors in there that could be like kind of easily accounted for. And we can already manipulate sliders ourselves in offline gameplay. So, you know, you could if you could reasonably think a program could do that in the middle of like an Ultimate Team game, right? And that's what that patent is. The patent is dynamic difficulty, meaning your difficulty, you say your passing a success or your shooting success can change in the middle of a game depending on certain factors. Now those factors can be quite sinister. Say like money spent on the game. You know, like we give people who spend money a little bit of an advantage. You know, there's definitely some sinister things that could be at play here. But I will say this is probably the year that I least notice it, I guess. Does that make sense? Like we've had years in the past where I remember like FIFA 17, 18, 19, it was so obvious that like something was going on at the game, whether it be DDA or whatever. But I think that I've noticed it less and less. Maybe it's because I've just gotten better at the game over the years, but I feel like there is probably something in the code somewhere that is like a DDA. I do think so, but I feel like I notice it less this year. It's less of a problem this year than I've noticed it in other years. Just my opinion though, right? You know, it's one person. I could be way off on that. Chains says, my hot take, every icon should be usable, specifically prime icons. There's nothing iconic about some of these cards in game. Yeah, I think that I wish there was a way, you know, FIFA stats just don't translate to in real life success. You know, you're talking about like remember Inzaghi cards and that kind of thing. You know, Inzaghi's definitely worthy of an icon card in game, but his stats, you know, just don't translate that well to FIFA gameplay. I think the more important thing here, and I think this is probably what you're trying to get at, is we should have a more of a usability for guys who maybe aren't as slow, or excuse me, aren't as fast, maybe just don't have some of the better stats in game, and icons should feel better than they do, at least the lower end icons, and definitely the prime icons. This year's more than ever, I think they've done a pretty good job with at least making somewhat slower players usable. I still think at the top end of FIFA, like you can't use like guys with like 50, 60, 70 pace. You need like 78 plus if you're like trying to finish high in FUT champs. But I still think this year more than ever, they've actually made it like somewhat all right to use. Like there's probably people out there that use like Toni Kroos or used Toni Kroos, maybe some slower players, and can get like 16, 17, 18 wins in champs. Like there's definitely people out there that can do that, which in previous years, I just don't know if it was possible. Honestly, I don't know. I totally agree. I think prime icons should, every single one of them should be usable in a perfect world. Actually, I don't know how EA do it. I don't know. I don't have the answers really to how they do it, but I think that they should be. The Beauty Yard asks, do you stream on Twitch? How long have you been a content creator, and where are you from in the US? So do I stream on Twitch? I don't. I stream on YouTube, and I do stream, and it's on this channel. I don't stream super often. Reason being is I upload like twice a day on like half the days of the week, and definitely upload every single day. So it's difficult to, when this is not my full-time job, to do all of that. So when I can make this my job, I will stream every single day without fail. Like I love FIFA, I love streaming. Like that's gonna happen. How long have I been a content creator? I mean, I started my channel like 7-8 months ago. Talked about that before. And where are you from in the US? I am from Minnesota, basically Canada. I mean, you might as well just call me Canadian. So Dimitri's got a long comment here, but I'll summarize it, and it says, basically, we want an in-depth video on how to play against the pressure BS, because obviously, as you guys know, constant pressure and all that stuff is super annoying, super OP. They've tried to nerf it a bunch of times. It's worse than it was. It doesn't mean it's not still ridiculously OP. And I'll make a video on that probably this week sometime on how to play against pressure or how to get out of it. I'll be honest, there's not a ton of ways to do it because it's so OP, but there is a couple ways, like a couple tricks you can do to get yourself open. Because if you can break down that constant pressure and get in behind or whatever, I mean, you're free on goal. So definitely useful to try to get better at that. Last one is from Kira. I just came back to FUT after a long pause. I wanted to know if the position modifier trading method is still good. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically buying position modifiers at their cheapest price, listing up for like 300, 400, 500, 600 coins more, and like lazy selling at a profit. And yeah, it's kind of back now. I think for a while there, when position modifiers were sitting at like 500 coins, they were extremely cheap for a little bit there. It wasn't quite as good. Now it's not as good as it was start of the year, because you don't get, we didn't have that 5 repeatable position modifier upgrade in the SBC section, but it's still decent. I still think you can do it, and position modifiers were so low for a while there. I don't know if EA was the biggest fan of that. I don't know if they were. So yeah, I think you can still do it. I haven't done it a lot recently, but I think right now you'll probably see more success with it than you have previously, at least probably since like a couple months ago. Okay, I'll take comments for my next video in this comment section, or whatever comment section you guys want to put it into. Thank you all for watching. Love you all. See you in this video very, very soon. Peace.